Birth of a Nation. The film glorified the Ku Klux Klan while portraying black Americans in dehumanizing ways, sparking fury from civil rights groups. The NAACP protested its release, denouncing it as dangerous propaganda and pushing for censorship. The film's release coincided with a resurgence of the Klan in the 1920s, with some chapters reportedly using it as a recruitment tool. The Birth of a Nation, 1915, revolutionized filmmaking and ignited sweeping turmoil. Some cities like Chicago attempted to prohibit it, while others, including Boston, allowed screenings with edits. This uproar even reached the White House, where Griffith privately screened the film for President Woodrow Wilson. Rumors swirl that Wilson praised it as, like writing history with lightning, though historians widely dispute the veracity of this quote. Despite widespread condemnation, it became the highest-grossing film of its era, earning an estimated $10 million. Directed by D.W. Griffith, the silent epic introduced groundbreaking techniques like close-ups and cross-cutting, but its technical achievements were overshadowed by its racist depictions. Today, it remains one of the most notorious films in history, studied for its cinematic innovations and criticized for its role in perpetuating racist myths. Freaks. Released in 1932, Freaks shocked audiences with its depiction of circus performers with physical differences, a choice that led to extensive backlash. The United Kingdom forbade it for 30 years, while in the United States, its disturbing themes led to poor box office performance. Despite these edits, the film faced immediate public indignation, with some accounts suggesting viewers reacted with shock and disgust. MGM cut approximately 26 to 30 minutes of footage before release, attempting to soften the film's impact. This dispute significantly affected director Todd Browning's Hollywood career, though he directed a few more films with diminishing success. Some speculate that the film's reception permanently harmed his reputation, limiting future opportunities. Over time, Freaks gained cult status, with contemporary scholars praising its boldness, but its initial release remains one of Hollywood's most notorious scandals. Baby Doll. The National Legion of Decency criticized it as morally objectionable in its entirety, spurring boycotts from Catholic groups across the United States. Some cities, including Memphis, barred it from theaters, while international censorship issues saw Sweden initially forbid the film. Baby Doll ignited public ire before it even reached theaters in 1956. Warner Brothers fueled the furor with a provocative marketing campaign featuring Carol Baker in a crib, thumb in mouth, a tactic critics condemned as exploitative. Directed by Elia Kazan and based on Tennessee Williams' work, the film's portrayal of a childlike bride entangled in seduction caused an immediate outcry. Some reviewers admired its daring narrative, while others deemed it a dangerous provocation. Despite the turmoil, the film earned 4 Academy Award nominations, including Best Adapted Screenplay for Williams. The debate cemented Baby Doll as a flashpoint in Hollywood's ongoing struggle between artistic freedom and moral censorship. Peeping Tom. British critics labeled it vile and perverted, with some pronouncing director Michael Powell's career effectively finished. The condemnation was rapid. The film was pulled from many theaters after about 5 days. Peeping Tom, 1960, startled audiences with its disturbing premise: a serial killer who records his victims' final moments. Powell, once celebrated for the red shoes and black Narcissus, watched his reputation crumble. His subsequent film, The Queen's Guards, failed to restore his standing, and finding future projects proved arduous. While his career did not end outright, opportunities diminished. Decades later, Martin Scorsese and other filmmakers re-examined Peeping Tom, lauding it as an unappreciated masterpiece. Today it's recognized as a pioneering thriller, but in 1960 it was a professional disaster. The Moon is Blue. Otto Preminger's romantic comedy employed words like virgin and pregnant, contravening the Motion Picture Production Code, or Hays Code, which had guided film standards since 1934. The Production Code Administration refused to endorse the film, but Preminger and United Artists released it nonetheless, prompting prohibitions in cities like Boston, Kansas City, and Memphis. The Moon is Blue, 1953, challenged Hollywood's rigid morality rules, not through explicit content, but through vocabulary. Some speculated that the commotion was a calculated ploy to inflate ticket sales, though no proof confirms this. Regardless, the uproar only heightened curiosity, turning the film into a box office triumph and garnering 3 Academy Award nominations. More significantly, it undermined the Hays Code's influence, paving the way for its eventual extinction. By the late 1960s, the Motion Picture Association of America replaced the code with the modern rating system, permanently shifting Hollywood's stance on censorship. Blackboard Jungle. Reports surfaced of disturbances in theaters, with accounts of teenagers dancing in the aisles and engaging in vandalism. In the United Kingdom, some cinemas barred the film after incidents of rowdy behavior, while Australian authorities restricted screenings, citing fears of its potential influence on young audiences. In 1955, Blackboard Jungle ignited a public outcry by pairing gritty depictions of juvenile delinquency with a soundtrack that helped propel rock and roll into the mainstream. Some critics at the time feared the song's infectious energy would encourage unruly behavior, and their concerns weren't entirely baseless. Though some moral guardians decried the film as a dangerous influence, its notoriety only bolstered its popularity. Directed by Richard Brooks and based on Evan Hunter's novel, the film followed a war veteran-turned-teacher played by Glenn Ford as he struggled to control a classroom of rebellious students, including a young Sidney Poitier. Its unflinching portrayal of urban youth, complete with gang violence, racial tensions, and classroom anarchy, clashed with the sanitized image of American teenagers that mainstream studios generally displayed. The film's opening credits, set to Bill Haley and his Comets' Rock Around the Clock, marked one of the earliest uses of rock music in a major motion picture. It became one of the highest-grossing films of the year and played a pivotal role in cementing rock and roll's cultural impact. Sidney Poitier's performance as Gregory Miller also stood out, challenging Tinseltown's narrow depictions of black characters. His role helped pave the way for more complex and dignified representations in an era when such opportunities were rare. Decades later, Blackboard Jungle remains a landmark film, not just for its influence on music and youth culture, but for its role in catalyzing debates about media's impact on society. While the uproar surrounding it has faded, its legacy as a flashpoint in the battle over teenage rebellion and moral decay endures. The Outlaw. The Motion Picture Production Code, or Hays Code, objected to the way the film highlighted Russell's figure, leading to a prolonged battle with censors. The Outlaw tested Hollywood's censorship limits like few films of its time. Completed in 1941, it faced years of delays due to its provocative marketing and emphasis on Jane Russell's image. Limited screenings took place in 1943, but a wider release didn't happen until 1946. This uproar, however, only intensified public curiosity. Promotional materials leaned into the scandal, turning the film into a box office success. Howard Hughes, ever the innovator, had designed a seamless underwire bra. Though its direct connection to the film remains disputed, Russell later claimed she never wore it. While The Outlaw was hardly the first film to challenge censorship, its drawn-out struggle became a high-profile example of the industry's evolving moral framework, foreshadowing the eventual decline of the Hays Code in the following decades. Lolita. Some critics questioned whether the subject matter should be depicted at all, while censors debated whether it had gone too far. Sue Lyon, cast at 14 and 15 during filming, was 16 when the film premiered, an age gap with her co-star, James Mason, that only heightened the scandal. Lolita, 1962, was bound to provoke outrage. Vladimir Nabokov's novel had already been prohibited in multiple countries, and its adaptation faced strict scrutiny under the major studio's evolving production code. Rumors even circulated that some theaters hesitated to screen it, fearing public outrage. Director Stanley Kubrick had to navigate these restrictions carefully, toning down the novel's most controversial aspects while still retaining its unsettling premise. Even with these changes, the film provoked an immediate backlash. Despite the censorship, Lolita remained shocking, stoking debates about artistic freedom and moral boundaries in cinema. Island of Lost Souls. British censors initially rejected it in 1933. It remained forbidden in the United Kingdom until 1958. When it was finally released with an X certificate after edits. In the United States, Kansas outright forbade the film, while other regions heavily censored it due to its themes of cruelty and ethical transgression. Released in 1932, Island of Lost Souls rattled audiences with its unsettling vision of science unchecked. Based on H.G. Wells' The Island of Dr. Moreau, the film depicted a rogue scientist creating human-animal hybrids through experimental procedures, a concept so disturbing that critics at the time called it ghastly and inhuman, with the New York Times describing it as too grotesque for comfort. Bela Lugosi's eerie performance as the sayer of the law, intoning the ominous chant, "Are we not men?" only heightened the film's unnerving atmosphere. Over time, Island of Lost Souls gained recognition as a landmark in horror cinema, influencing later interpretations of Wells' story and igniting debate over the limits of on-screen horror. The Blue Angel. In Nazi Germany, officials outlawed the Blue Angel, though the precise rationale remains unsettled. Some records cite worries over its supposed indecency, while others point to political motives connected to Dietrich's increasing ties to Hollywood. Censorship stretched beyond Germany. Sources reveal that authorities in the US, the UK, and elsewhere either heavily modified or curtailed showings, citing moral concerns. The Blue Angel, 1930, provoked a commotion with its daring depiction of power, seduction, and downfall. Years later, after she openly backed the Allied forces in World War II, the Nazi regime labeled her a traitor. The storyline, detailing a respected professor's spiral into fixation and disgrace, triggered widespread discussion about its critique of societal constraints. Directed by Joseph von Sternberg, the German film featured Marlene Dietrich as the elusive cabaret performer Lola Lola, a role that elevated her to worldwide stardom. Her audacious turn, especially during the song Falling in Love Again, tested the boundaries of cinematic sensuality in an era adjusting to sound. Despite the backlash, the movie found both critical and box office triumph, uniting German and American filmmaking during a crucial juncture in cinema. Its legacy endures in myriad representations of femme fatales and doomed fixation on screen. M. Though not initially prohibited, the production was subject to censorship in Nazi Germany after the regime seized power in 1933, with authorities reportedly condemning its subject matter. M, 1931, expanded cinematic frontiers with its unsettling portrayal of a child murderer, played by Peter Lorre in a defining performance. Viewers were rattled by the movie's stark realism, and its depiction of mob justice ignited fervent arguments. Director Fritz Lang later recounted that Joseph Goebbels invited him to collaborate with the Nazi film industry, a claim some experts contest due to scant documentation. Another fascinating point is the film's groundbreaking use of sound. Lang's choice to connect the killer with a whistled excerpt from Edvard Grieg's In the Hall of the Mountain King pioneered a template for subsequent suspense movies. Once a magnet for outrage, M is now hailed as a cinematic milestone, shaping crime films for generations. Gilda. In Spain under Francisco Franco's rule, stringent regulations on risque content were enforced, yet some accounts claim Gilda encountered restrictions rather than an outright prohibition, though definitive proof is scarce. American conservatives regarded the film as ethically dubious, while critics debated whether Hayworth's persona was an empowered femme fatale or merely a cog in a toxic love triangle. Debuting in 1946, Gilda sparked uproar with its audacious depiction of sexual tension. Featuring Rita Hayworth, the production confronted mid-century values, mainly with its now iconic strip-tease sequence, where Hayworth sliding off a single glove was deemed salacious by contemporary standards. Although the Production Code Administration examined the movie, the scene stayed untouched, fueling discussions about Hollywood's evolving limits. The film greatly bolstered Hayworth's reputation in Hollywood, solidifying her as a screen legend. Certain cinema scholars contend that Gilda refined the concept of the femme fatale, shaping later noir and neo-noir interpretations. Although these ties remain contested, the movie's imprint on the genre is unmistakable. Even decades on, Gilda endures as evidence of cinema's suggestive power, confirming that a single glove can indeed create a cultural ripple. The Night of the Hunter. Critics dismissed it as too eccentric, and audiences who anticipated a standard thriller largely spurned the film. It was a box office disappointment, and Charles Laughton never directed another. The Night of the Hunter, 1955, mystified viewers with his haunting, dreamlike aesthetics and disturbing motifs. Robert Mitchum's embodiment of a malevolent preacher distinguished by his notorious love and hate knuckle tattoos was judged excessively theatrical by reviewers. The production's stark black and white photography, influenced by German expressionism, heightened its nightmarish mood. While some believe that this failure disheartened him, no conclusive proof supports that idea. By the 1960s, commentators revisited its artistic merit, with directors like François Truffaut lauding its daring vision. In 1992, it joined the National Film Registry, affirming its standing as a cinematic landmark. Its examination of religious deceit and exploitation remains as disquieting as ever, underscoring that certain motion pictures are simply ahead of their era. La Dolce Vita. Federico Fellini's La Dolce Vita sparked a cultural uproar upon its 1960 release, drawing sharp criticism from L'Osservatore Romano, the Vatican's newspaper, for its portrayal of Rome's indulgent nightlife. The film's themes of moral decay and celebrity obsession led to censorship conflicts in Italy and Spain, with authorities attempting to restrict its distribution. While some viewed it as a critique of excess, others accused it of glorifying the very lifestyle it sought to expose. In the United States, its adults-only rating further cemented its reputation as a provocative work. Some speculated that this commotion only boosted its success, as audiences flocked to see what had caused such outrage. The now iconic Trevi fountain scene, featuring Anita Ekberg wading through the water in an elegant black dress, became a defining image of the film, both celebrated and condemned. Despite the backlash, the film won the Palme d'Or at Cannes and introduced the term paparazzi into popular culture. Today it stands as a cinematic masterpiece, but at the time it was a lightning rod for scandal. A Streetcar Named Desire. The Catholic Legion of Decency denounced the film with a C rating, urging boycotts, but that uproar only boosted curiosity. The Motion Picture Association of America demanded changes, toning down references to Blanche Du Bois's troubled past and softening the implications of Stanley Kowalski's violent actions. Even so, Marlon Brando's unfiltered performance disturbed viewers, portraying a level of aggression rarely seen on screen. Tennessee Williams' stage play had already unsettled audiences, but the film's raw intensity pushed even further. The film became a box office hit, proving audiences were ready for more mature themes. Vivien Leigh's portrayal of Blanche earned her an Academy Award, though she had long struggled with mental health challenges. Some speculate that the role intensified her difficulties, but definitive evidence remains elusive. Regardless, A Streetcar Named Desire remains a landmark in cinematic history, a film that challenged censorship and reshaped Hollywood's approach to storytelling. And God Created Woman. Religious groups and moral watchdogs criticized the film, and censorship disputes erupted in multiple countries. Some reports claim it was banned in certain US cities, though records of statewide prohibitions remain unclear. And God Created Woman, in 1956, ignited a public furor with its daring portrayal of female sexuality. Brigitte Bardot's performance, particularly her provocative dance scenes, astonished conservative audiences. Critics were divided. Some labeled it exploitative, while others regarded it as a bold step toward modern depictions of women on screen. Directed by Roger Vadim, the film follows Juliette, a young woman whose uninhibited nature unsettles the men around her. That turmoil only propelled its success, cementing Bardot's status as a global icon and influencing the French New Wave's approach to sexuality in cinema. La Ventura. La Ventura premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in May of 1960, only to be greeted with hostility. Many in the audience booed. Some critics dismissed it as pretentious, and reports of walkouts surfaced. Its slow pacing and unresolved narrative defied convention, leaving viewers frustrated. Yet despite the negative reception, the Cannes jury awarded it the Jury Prize, signaling a shift in perception. Commercially, the film struggled at first, but over time, Michelangelo Antonioni's existential approach reshaped cinema, influencing directors like Martin Scorsese and Francis Ford Coppola. Today, it is regarded as a masterpiece, often ranking among the greatest films ever made. Legends even suggest that several reviewers who initially scorned it later reversed their opinions, though records remain inconclusive. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment. Also consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to get notified of our new videos each week. Thanks for watching.